All right, I am at the black and gray holding tanks for my motorhome. This is for all the so-called experts out there who know exactly how holding tanks work and insist that poo pyramids can be avoided if you use enough water, if you flush them out with the Sani flush, whatever tricks they try to use. I always eventually have to use the dreaded stick. There's no way around it, unfortunately, because of the way these tanks are designed to fit into motorhomes and RVs. There's only so much space, especially if you have tanks that are essentially winterized. That means tanks that are not exposed to the elements. There is some insulation between the outside air and the tanks. Well, those tanks, which are right here, there's my gray, and there's my black, are sandwiched, for the most part, in between the cross members that are installed on top of the F53 frame, so there is not much room. As you can see, there is about 6 inches of room between those cross members, and a lot of your stuff, your furnace pipes and anything that's going to be protected from freezing and whatnot is going to run in this little 6-inch area between the front and the back of the motorhome. Otherwise, it's running underneath and it's not protected from the elements. So we have 6 inches of space between that cross member there. So this black tank and this gray tank, while you see this huge part right here, and you see where the valve comes out down there, even though this part right here is huge, and there's some of our level indicator wires right there, and there's some more here, so they're all in there. I don't even pay attention to those anymore. But the majority of this tank goes back 6, maybe 8 feet in that 6 inches of space, and there has to be a slope to it, or at least there should be a slope to it. If not, I don't even want to know what would happen. But you can imagine that, say they're 6 feet long from where that cross member starts, where it begins to get skinny, all the way to the other side. If it's 6 feet, then you have 6 inches to work with. Then that's about a 1 inch, maybe a 2 inch difference for every 2 feet you have. So there's really not a lot of slope that's allowing all your solid particulates, your toilet paper and your poo, to be gravity fed into the bottom of this tank. And people who say that if you use more water, well, yeah, you can use all the water you want, but solids don't always flow with a little bit of water. They also need a heck of a slope. And you think about the toilet in your house, it uses generally a lot more water than you use in an RV tank. Most RV toilets will maybe get half gallon to a gallon in them before you flush them, whereas your toilet at home usually uses about 2.5 gallons. Some of the old ones used to use like 5 gallons of water. It was crazy. And they have a lot more of a vertical pipe to go down before they start on their sloped exit to the house. RVs, you don't have that. They have to work with the space that they have. So that 6 inches has to accommodate the majority of your black tank. Now in mine, when you look at the schematics, the toilet is right about where that skinny part ends. It's a couple inches towards the other side of the camper. So it does not empty into this big part here. I wish it did, that'd be great. But when you flush, things tend to get stuck, and then you have to go get your stick. So that's essentially, for right now, the anatomy of your gray and black tanks, and it depends on your manufacturer. All tanks are designed differently, but in my case, it's a really long, skinny tank until you get right here, where most of the water and solids will collect. And this part here is great, but if they don't get from way down there to here, you're in trouble. All right, and then we're gonna go underneath. We're gonna take a look at what is underneath. This is all live. I'm not hiding anything from you. All right, so here's underneath. This silver stuff you see right there, glistening, that's the insulation for the black and gray tanks. So they have to be fitted in there in between that little space right there, in between the cross members. So, you know, they send these out to, I think it's Lippert for Thor, and they weld on these cross members on the F-53 frame, and then they fit stuff in there. All sorts of wiring, like I said, your furnace tubing, your black and gray tanks. It's not a lot of insulation to protect them from the elements, but it's a little bit. Mine does not come with a tank heater. It probably should, because I don't think that this insulation is probably maybe 1 inch. And think about it, if it's 1 inch of insulation, that's less space that you have. That now takes that 6-inch space down to 5 inches because you have 1 inch of insulation. So there's really not a lot of room to work with when you're dealing with some of these tanks. Manufacturers have to fit them in where they can, and that's just it. There's no secret. There's no, you know, foolproof way of getting things to go down the black tank and not get clogged, which is unfortunately why some of us need the stick. If your tank is designed differently, you have a lot more clearance between the toilet pipe and the bottom of your black tank, awesome. I've never had this problem with 3 other travel trailers and motorhomes I've owned. Unfortunately, this one, it happens often. So that is why we use the stick. All right, thank you.